Welcome back to Flipped Out, friends, family, and fans. Here we're going to discuss the Endgame movie tonight. It's a review. You're going to find out things I did like, things I loved, and things I didn't like so much. And oddly enough, after having looked at many YouTubers' videos, I find that they match up, my dislikes and likes match up very well with others, so perhaps you will feel very similarly. In the beginning of the movie, we find that the original six, minus Tony and Nebula, are at Avengers headquarters, and yet we find Tony and Nebula in space. Now, one of the things that I felt didn't make a lot of sense, and I feel like Disney and Marvel and Lucasfilm are kind of harping on this fuel thing in space. I'm not sure why, but you know, when a spaceship is going at 20,000 miles an hour and you run out of fuel, it keeps going. It just does. But I decided that it must not be that they ran out of fuel and stopped, Nebula and Iron Man. I think what it really is that they ran out of fuel and then they kept coasting, but we're running out of oxygen, water, and food. He does mention that, so I guess that's what I'm going with. But for a minute there, it really felt like they were touching on the whole fuel thing again, and it was a bit confusing. However, this movie is so good, visually delicious, that you tend to forgive the minor, mistakes, the minor inconsistencies, and you kind of move forward with it. And it is a good movie. And I'm not even talking about the music, which is amazing, or the special effects, which are mind-boggling, bombastically badass, but really the story. Story is where it's all at, it's what it's all about. If you have a good story and good character development, and God knows, 11 years and 23 movies, the story and the character development have definitely been there. And it hasn't been perfect along the way, but it's been there. In a large way. 23 movies, yeah, they set up their characters. As many of the other YouTubers have said, they didn't really need a lot of depth into their plot points. We knew where it was going, so this was a lot of fan service and a lot of fun. Just get in there and finish the story. The whole thing is like a final act, and much like Endgame, it was just a big final act. This was like a continuation of the final act. But speaking of that, though, it is a 3-part movie. It's 3 hours long. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I like how they set that up that way. This has always been the way stories are, but they gave an hour to each area or part, and I really appreciated that. So in the small, slow areas in the beginning, I knew where it was going. Beginning, middle, end, can't go wrong. So I was patient. Okay, so Tony and Nebula are on the Benatar. I think that's the one. I think that's what they call it. But they're on the ship. They're out of food and oxygen. Tony says to Pepper, in a hologram message that hopefully she'll get later, that it was always her. The whole "I love you" thing, which was beautiful. He did a really good job acting that part, and the writing there it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. It moves forward, and the one thing we were expecting, we just didn't know where, was the appearance of Captain Marvel. I know. But it was done tastefully. If any such thing can be done tastefully, they did it. Because, I say this because they didn't overuse her. They did not at all overuse her, and I was very happy with that. Although she did show up out of nowhere, I guess she'd been sweeping space.
I want to know who's on the other end of that thing.
Where's Fury?
I guess she went back out to look for him. Well, she found him and flies them home. And, of course, the reunion with Tony and Pepper is amazing. So, they kind of move forward, and you're inside the office room, I presume, of Avengers headquarters. Tony is trying to have a bowl of something to eat, and they made him look really frail and thin and sickly. He even talks with a bit of a, dry mouth, I guess. And I really enjoyed it because he kind of lost it. He was very upset. He took it out on Cap, and it came off realistic. Maybe, you know, if you were in that situation, you might feel like, oh, well, a little confused, you know? You were near death. You lost a major battle. You're a superhero, for God's sake. So I get it. He lost his mind just a little bit. And you want to feel that with him. Like, hey, man, shut up. Don't be that way. This is Cap. This is your brother. Don't do that. But they meant for you to feel that. And so mission accomplished there. As the movie goes on, there are things that I really liked about it, but also things I didn't like so much. Thor, that whole situation where he's gained a lot of weight. It's funny at first, it really is, but as it wears on, you just feel like, okay, now he's going to have lightning run through his body, he's going to claim that he's worthy, and bam, he'll be perfectly fit, and everything will work out, but it doesn't happen, and then you're like, well, it's going to happen, and then it just doesn't happen. And ultimately, it never happens. I don't want to spoil the end too much right now, but maybe just move on to another part that I enjoyed.